Welcome to the class on how to do an intuitive reading on yourself. It might sound like a pretty straightforward topic, but you might be surprised as to what you learn, how you can apply this to yourself and to your life, and maybe what it really means. Some of you might be here because you want to get a better understanding of yourself, want to have some more self-awareness. Maybe some of you want to tap into some of your intuitive gifts a little bit more. Could be all sorts of reasons. Just want to meditate, be in good company that we have here. But before we dig in, I'll just introduce myself a little bit. I'm Brandon. I've been teaching with Energy Matters here since 2020 and was teaching, running psychic schools, teaching in different centers since about 2010. I've been doing spiritual work since I was 14 or 15, I guess more officially, and have been doing this psychic work particular for the last 13 years or so. And so it's been a real lifesaver for me, and that turned it into my passion and something that I wanted to continue to do and teach and share with everyone else, since it made such a tremendous impact on my life. So I'm excited that all of you are here to get to be part of the experience, to get to enjoy it. And yeah, I'm just going to guide us through a little bit of a talk, and then we'll do a meditation, the fun part. And then we'll do just a little quick group activity and kind of wrap up from there. So it should be good fun, right? And so even if you've never really meditated before, if you're new to this, if you haven't really done intuitive work, that's okay. This will be a great launching point, a great first step. Or if you're one of the people that I see here that's taken intuitive training in the past, who's, been around the block doing this for a little while, you still have something tremendous to gain here, just creating the time and space to sit and take a look at yourself, to give yourself a spirit to spirit hello. That's part of what we're doing here in learning to read ourselves. And that spirit to spirit hello can be tremendously healing. I could tell you countless stories of where a really true hello changed somebody's life or changed something within them. And being able to give that gift to yourself is pretty empowering, I would say. It's pretty cool. And we're going to do it in a lighthearted, fun way. It's not super serious or anything like that. We get to have fun doing this work. That's one of the things that I love so much about it. We get to joke around and play as we learn this topic, as we dive into it, right? And so, why do we want to learn to read ourselves? I'll share kind of a personal story on this topic to sort of explain that. When I was a teen, I was really self-critical. I had really big self-esteem issues. I always felt like, I had a lot of self-hatred, was putting myself down. It was kind of hard for me to have healthy connections and to succeed in the various areas of life. And I was lucky that this clairvoyant training, this intuitive work that we're dabbling in tonight, found me at a young age. And what it started to teach me was to discern the difference between what energy is me and what energy is not me. I started to be able to see myself more clearly. And so thus I got to know who I was more thoroughly. And knowing more of who you are beyond all the mental noise, beyond the invalidation, the pain, all the things that come up in our life, it really shifted that self-image. It shifted how I felt about myself. And that was able to shift then how I created the rest of my life. And so it was a pretty immediate and big change that happened there. Because that invalidation that a lot of us can feel, it's always a lie. It's never going to be true. It's not really who you are. It's not actually true about you. No matter how long it's been running around in your head, getting stuck in there, it's still a lie. And so learning to read yourself, you get to have a more clear vision, which allows you to love yourself more, which allows you to create more of a life that you love. So in a lot of ways, it's a solution to most problems. And it's a key part of the psychic development journey. Right? So one quote that I really like that kind of goes along those lines is, your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. And meditation is a way to go inward, to look into your own heart. We spend most of our lives trying to understand the world around us, trying to read into other people, other situations. And, that's something that we teach too later on down the road. But it starts with going within first, understanding ourselves. And through that, you start to understand the world in a whole new way. Something that I like to, say from time to time is if you know one thing really fully, then you know everything through that thing, right? You know the deeper truth of who you are, and all else starts to be revealed. So we're going to do this through visual meditation, right? And it's a natural ability that we all have to be able to do this, to look at yourself, to do a reading for yourself, as this class was called, right? So let's go ahead and start to get comfortable, start to find a meditative position. We can step out of being too philosophical, too deep, and we can step into a meditative space, a different kind of depth. And so find a position in a place where you can get nice and comfortable, where you can be sitting upright in a chair, maybe with your feet flat on the floor. It's going to be a good position to sit in for this form of meditation. Yeah. And just start to give yourself a couple deep breaths in. Start to collect yourself up. And if you need to give your body a little shake, a little wiggle, if you need to make any noises, if you're on mute, you can get some of that stagnant energy moving and out of the way first. That's okay. And start to find your way here. Find that quiet but comfortable position in your own time. You can let those eyes be at rest. When we learn to see ourselves as spirit, we're not seeing ourselves through our five senses. So we want to turn those senses down. When we close the eyes, when we start to pull our energy inward from the senses, we can start to connect to that sixth sense, that place in which we get to see spirit to spirit. And so start to breathe into that place. Breathe into that center. It's just beyond the senses, just beyond your engagement to the physical world, to your day. Go deeper than that. Not so deep that you drift away and fall asleep, just a light meditative state. And if you do find yourself getting distracted or drifting away, this could happen at any point in the meditation. Don't be mad about it. Just simply take note of what caught your attention. What did you start thinking about? What energy was more important than getting to know yourself? You can just take note of that. I was thinking about that cake in the freezer, how delicious it is, or the sunshine outside. That seems more important. Or a conversation that I was having earlier. You might just be curious as to what's dividing your attention. Knowing that that's good information. That's part of what sits in between you and yourself. And so without judgment, you can note it. You can say it to yourself quietly. The taco, it pulled my attention away. And then you come back to presence, back to meditation. Yeah. And so we'll start by just doing a body scan, just getting in touch with yourself, noticing what sensations are stirring within you. And when you find those sensations, you can say hello to them. And then start to pull your attention out of them, simply by just not giving them too much of your attention, not resisting them, but not feeding them either. Just as I was describing how you would note if your mind starts to wander, you can also note if a sensation starts to pull you away. The rumbling in the tummy, a little itch, whatever it is. That's just energy moving within your body, releasing, shifting. And so we can start by just being in observation, is that starts to bring more of our energy into the awareness part of us, the part of us that we'll be using to do this reading on yourself. And so again, don't try to bypass any of those feelings or sensations. Just be witness to them. And using your breath and your intention, you can start moving a little bit deeper within, observing those thoughts, letting them pass like clouds in the air, not holding on to them or feeding energy into them, just creating space for your awareness to shine forth. You are not those thoughts. You are not those feelings or sensations, but rather you are the awareness of them. That awareness that is aware of its own self. And just find your center here. You might even intend to be in the center of your head, that space behind your eyes and in between your ears. And as you do so, you're going beyond just your physical body center. You're going into your spiritual center. You're creating a sanctuary here in your center of head space, while also bringing more energy to the sixth chakra, the third eye, an energy center that's nice to read from, to get to know yourself from. Helps you to know yourself at that higher spiritual level. And from here, would you imagine that there's a big mirror out in front of you? Almost as if it's 4 feet out in front of you, and that the width of this mirror is greater than the height. Almost like a mirrored glass window that you could be looking into. And just let that mirror be clean and clear. No dirt on it, no gunk, no debris. Allow yourself to not have to fight against it, to try to hold it in one spot or another, but for it to just be there, out in front of you. And as you look into this mirror, let it show you not your physical reflection, but a reflection of you as an energy body. If you were to see yourself just in energy form, whatever that means to you, see yourself as an energy. Doesn't have to be a specific way, could be different for everyone. You might see some colored clouds. You might look like a formation of stars and colors out in the cosmos. You might see some waves of energy. You might see something that looks sort of like your physical form, but has energy waves, almost as if you're looking through thermal goggles. Could be different for everyone, but just see what you see. There could be a vast array of colors here, or there could just be one or two colors. And part of seeing yourself is getting to see yourself in energy form. And the other part is noticing what comes up within you as you try to look at yourself. Are there any subtle layers of frustration, difficulty, confusion, boredom? If there's anything that's stirring up within you, that's what's sitting between you and yourself, getting to see yourself clearly. And so, if you notice anything arising, anything that's less than total playfulness, total curiosity, imaginative ability, just note it and let it go. Let it pass. Recognizing that's just a barrier. It's just a layer of energy that's coming up as you give yourself this time to look within. And then step into this playful, curious, imaginative mindset and see what you see. The world oftentimes conditions people to identify with the body and the mind, to perceive the world through our lens. Part of being intuitive or psychic is being able to see who you are beyond that, letting yourself see through the eyes of a child. And you use your imagination ability to tap into the unlimited power of your subconscious mind to get some insight into the nature of who you are. You're not making it up, but you're using your imagination to paint that picture. And if you're getting serious about it, just give yourself a smile. A big smile will instantly shift that. You can give yourself another deep breath in, not going too deep into trance. And again, just recognize if there's anything you feel that you're stuck in. You're not stuck in it, you're just being aware of it. You're being aware of what used to be a blockage there. If you're perceiving a lot of stuckness, that just means you're doing good healing work in this meditation. You can take it as a success, a compliment, not something that's in the way or a problem, right? And maybe that's true for a lot more of life than we realize too. What seems like negative feedback is just showing us what we're ready to drop, to clear through. And so if you want to move a little deeper with your breathing, you could intend that on your in-breath, you breathe in more of the light of who you are. And on that exhalation, you release any of that energy you're ready to drop. Really using this intention and breath together to create more space. And now just try to gather one word to describe what you're seeing in the mirror. We might share this word later in the chat or with each other. What's one word to describe that energy body that you're looking at? Could be a quality. And, and now we're going to take another step further. Ask this mirror to now show you what you look like in present time today, not in the past, not in the future, but what you look like right here and now through the image of a rose. Let that rose be the catalyst for you reading yourself. Almost like it's a powerful divination tool where the rose is going to symbolize the energy of you. It's going to reflect back to you who you are in a way that's easier to see than if you're just sitting there having a staring contest with yourself. You may be really in touch with your feelings, with your thoughts, what's going on in your world. But who are you? How does that show up in a rose? You could let that show up first in the color of the rose. It doesn't have to be red. It could show up in the petals. Are the petals really open, really luscious, alive? What does that say about you? Are they wilting, falling away, needing some nourishment, some watering, some care? Or is it a little bit of both? What's the main energy that that rose is trying to convey to you? And maybe you notice how long the stem of that rose is. Is it a really tall, powerful, wise rose? Is it sort of small and falling over, bending one way or another? Not that one size is better than another. Could be very small and mighty. Could be very tall and lopsided and aloof. Just whatever you pick up by looking at that. Are there a lot of thorns on that rose? Is it trying to protect itself? Has it been wounded time and time again and had to develop a protection mechanism? Does it have a lot of leaves? But really just let that rose impress upon you the energy of what's going on within you. Let that reflect back to you. And seeing it visually like this, it helps to get you out of the mind, out of just thinking about it. And you start to move into more of the intuitive part of your mind. That's visualizing. That's seeing the image. And so you use the rose just to bring you into that connection to your subconscious, to help connect you to that intuitive part of yourself. And that's really the beginning phase of learning how to read, how to see yourself or another. Right? And so as you stare at that rose, just let whatever comes to mind come forth, whatever messages want to come forth. Let them be there. Again, does that rose look droopy? Is it under pressure or is it thriving? Really nourished? What kind of vibe does it give you? And you let this rose tell you a story. Tell you a story about you. Maybe you see some energy of where you're reaching out to your higher self, to your guides, asking for some guidance, some connection. Maybe you see that you're moving through a whirlwind of challenges and tests in your life, which are really opportunities for growth. Maybe you see that through all that you've been put through, here you are, you prevail. You're still here showing up, a conscious enough soul to even be curious and looking at yourself, curious at the intuitive aspect of you. Just in you being here, being curious and reading yourself, it shows that you have a capacity for knowing yourself beyond just the body, the mind, the feelings. Shows an eagerness to experience more of the wholeness of spirit, the wholeness that you are. And so let this self-awareness, this self-reflection be a healing onto you. What starts to move and shift within you as you validate a part of yourself, a part of you that's maybe not been seen for a long, long time? Or a part of you that you engage with every day, but never from this spacious, loving, patient place of awareness. Yeah. And if you get other flashes or images, start thinking about a person or something random, it might not be as random as you think. It might be you tuning into an energy that's around you. When I first started psychic work, I didn't know that I was really psychic or aware because I was just aware of so much that pulled my attention in every direction. Sometimes people get mislabeled as ADHD for that reason. They're just aware of so much. So if this is your first time doing this, don't expect it to be perfect. This is how you take a step forward. You start to work your intuitive muscles. You're going to the psychic gym right now, getting them in shape. Yeah. So just release anything that you get stuck on through that out breath. And to take it one step further, and then we'll start to wrap up, is ask that rose a question. If you're curious about a certain aspect of your life, a certain shift, you can ask the rose to reflect that to you, to give you some form of impression, information. And even if you don't get an immediate answer, even if something comes up that feels like a blockage, recognize that as you taking a step forward towards your answer falling in your lap, being there. Maybe you get it tonight, maybe you get it tomorrow, maybe it shows up through your world experience. You don't have to be attached or expect anything, but just ask your question and let the rose reflect something to you. Does the rose show that there's a level of hurt, anger, happiness, fulfillment there? You can let your subconscious mind kind of start to fill in the blank. Reflect an answer to your conscious mind through the image of the rose. I'll just give you another moment or two to finish letting that answer, that reflection, perception around that question start to fill in. Go ahead and give yourself one more deep breath in. And then let that mirror shatter. Let it fall away. Clear that screen, that mirrored glass image through which you were looking at that energy. And let the rose fall away with it. Let everything clear out. Yeah. If you were reading someone else, that mirror might be more of a whiteboard, a reading screen. But come back to the center of your head if you drifted away. Be right there behind your eyes and in between your ears again. And just find your presence. And do a quick body scan now. Just check to see what's up with you after having taken a look at yourself. What's moving around in there? Good. And then just take note if even one small thing shifted from you starting to take a look at yourself. Just validate even the most minuscule amount of newfound awareness or clarity. You either got some insight and an answer, or you took a step closer towards it, cleared some energy that was in between you and it. Yeah, good. And you can come on out of meditation there. You can start to wiggle, stretch. You can touch your toes, let any excess energy pour off. You can come on back. All right, wonderful. So now that you had a second to share with each other, does anyone want to share with the group what came up for you? And you can raise your hand or you can just open your mic if you want to share what you saw, what you experienced. Yeah, surely.
We both stated that it was very peaceful and calm.
Wonderful. That's great. Yeah, Stevie.
It was interesting. Oh yeah, my mic's on. It was interesting, Brandon, when I was looking at the rose, I saw this beautiful yellow rose, but I was only able to see half of it. Like the other side was kind of like misty and I couldn't fully focus on that. So that was interesting.
Yeah. Did you take away anything from that?
Not yet. I did find myself yawning a lot, and a couple of times almost falling asleep. I nodded and I'm like, whoa, I felt these waves going through my body.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyone
Very
else
cool.
feel some of that unconsciousness, falling asleep? There can be a lot of that energy in between seeing ourselves. Yeah. Yeah, Nikki, do you want to share?
That was what I was going to share. And I've pulled up a screen so many times. I've never pulled up a mirror. So that was really, and it was almost immediate, like, whoa. So I noticed that a lot. It was great.
Was there anything on the other side of it? Did you feel refreshed after, more spacious, or I'm just curious? You don't have
I
to.
did. I actually, when I was asking my question, I was surprised. And in the rows, I had some really clear images come up. Like on a summit, my daughter riding away on a bike, and just some really clear things that surprised me. And so I guess, yeah, I ended up not asleep. So, and the mirror was a little clearer. I found that it wanted to be one of those mirrors that you can't really see yourself. They kind of have that black wash over them. So I got to do some cleaning.
Yeah. Very cool. Yes. I mean, how conditioned are we not to look at ourselves, not to really read ourselves and sit with us in that way? It's always what's going on out here, distraction, attention, attention. It's a precious commodity that once we get to take it and give it back to ourselves, it can be pretty amazing. So Good job. You look bright and shiny now afterwards. I'll give you that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Jose, did you want to share?
Very interesting because in the beginning, I was seeing like the screen and I started following, but I was part of the time when I missed the view. Like it's like when you watch a TV and you get out no internet. But the follow with the telepathic, I was, imagine the view, and then I come back again and start seeing it. And I I I I got like this good exercise, and I really like it. I don't know if we can have the recording. That'd be great to
Yeah.
do it again. One question: when we are in a meditation and we like losing the vision, is it's okay. We still continue with the because I feel like I go deeper in a different level when I go meditation. I feel like I got the first level, but the after go so deep and kind of I still listen it, but it's in a
Sure.
different.
Yeah, if you start to go a little too deep, you're still doing the work, you're still processing and moving through it. Yeah, we like to use kind of the visual cues to kind of keep someone engaged and in a form of concentration. That way you don't go too deep, but people fall asleep during meditation and you're still going through it. You as a spirit are still here having the experience moving through the energy, even if you're going kind of into deep trance and then back closer to the surface. That's totally okay. You're finding your answer somewhere in there within you as you do that. So that's great. Yeah. And you asked about the recording. We can definitely send that. I'll also post here a little bit of a recap. We started by centering ourselves, and then we started to move the thinking mind and the emotions out of the way, not be latching on to them. That way we could tap into the intuitive mind through meditation and visualization. And then we use the tools, the mirror and the rose, to look at your energy body and to see yourself in a rose, to start to read yourself more. And then we kind of came back to our center point to bring it all together, to put it all through. So you can copy and paste those notes that I put in the chat if you want to hold on to that, and we'll send out the recording as well. Yeah. Moon, did you want to share?
Yeah, I would love to share. I was telling my little subgroup about how I tended to sort of try to control the visualization instead of letting it emerge, which is a wonderful tendency because of my own self resiliency and reliance that I hold on an everyday basis. And I'm really trying to shift out of that through meditation and just like whatever images come, be accepting of them instead of like trying to change it to appeal to what I want it to be. Especially because I've been doing a lot of like meditation around manifestation and like, what do I want? What do I want to be? And how do I want to perceive myself in the world? How do I want to engage in the world? And that's great. However, it is also really that intuitive gut, right? It comes from this part in your lower like gut root area of what is actually really happening in the moment as well, and being authentic with that. So that was a really big takeaway for me in this visualization, especially with the rose and trying to having an inner conflict with myself of like, this is the rose that's showing up and this is the rose that I want to show up. And even like at one point, like I was like, oh, I want to have a soft, pretty rose in the rose that came up for me. But then sort of like letting that go and being like, that's maybe where I want to be, but also being authentic and genuine and accepting that, well, I'm not, a soft, pretty rose right now. Like I'm a crystallized rose and I have thorns and, and just leaning into that experience. So thank you. And I I hope to continue this, mental workout, as I continue this journey, because it's really helpful to have that connection with the self and being authentic with the self as you're doing intuitive reads. So if you can't do that with yourself, it's harder to do it with other people because your self gets involved. Although I will say, Brandon, that doing intuitive reads for other people is so much easier than trying to do it for myself. I don't know if anybody else has experienced that.
Yes, look at that. Yeah, so for those of you that aren't readers, haven't done the program yet, the clairvoyant program, that's a really cool thing to hear. Looking at somebody else can be easier than looking at ourselves. And in reading someone else, you get to see a reflection of you. You get to understand yourself more. You get to see the shadow aspects or the unseen aspects within yourself in a way that's a little more honest. You can't try to force it or make it up or see the rose the way you want it to, which, by the way, great awareness for noticing that you were trying to control that and do that, and kind of fact checking it with your feelings and realizing that it was you just seeing where you are right now in present time, and that's okay. That's enough. But on that topic of, it's easier to sometimes look at someone else do the work through being a reader, reading someone else or healing someone else. That's what the clairvoyant path is about. It's learning how to use these skills, not just to impress someone or to have cool powers, but for your own spiritual growth, your own path towards fulfillment, enlightenment, freedom. So we do have another intuitive training starting up with Energy Matters next February, just in case anyone was curious. Feel free to email us. But yeah, Empress Eve, did you want to share? You and Karen, we'll finish up with 2 more. You're muted, Empress. Yeah, there you go.
Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, so I was having trouble this whole time getting to hear people. So actually I was very grateful for the experience, because I've been like totally putting off meditating as much as I used to. And recently I've been called tarot, and it's kind of been difficult for me, which is crazy because usually things aren't. But like, being that it wasn't something I chose to do, and it was just something like, it was kind of put on me, I've been like panicking a little bit. So it was interesting to look at myself. I was like a swirl of colors, like kind of like the Northern Lights colors, like the purple, the greens. And I just like, when I thought of a word, the only thing I can think of is like a beautiful chaos. And that's how I've been feeling. And I don't know if it's just all the retrogrades and the moon cycle and everything, but I feel like between last week and now, I was like, I knew exactly what I had to do. I kind of had that feeling. And then now I'm like having like imposter syndrome terribly. So I've been trying to figure it out. So I'm glad that this popped up, because it's definitely helping. And for my flower, which was interesting, it was blue and it was wilting for sure. And it was kind of like, it was losing petals. So I'm not like, I kind of think it's like telling me like I'm kind of exhausted. I am probably overthinking everything. So I'm probably mentally worn out. But it was just interesting that it like came right up. And the mirror does help a lot, like she said.
Great.
That was actually very interesting.
Yeah. Well, glad we could have a nice space.
And you have a great voice for
Great.
Yeah, I didn't put the camera on.
That's fine. That's great.
All
Thanks.
right.
Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being here and sharing your reflections. It's great.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And Karen, we'll do one more.
Hello.
Hey.
So when we got to the rose, the first one I saw was red, and then it started kind of morphing, like, let me try this one. Let me try this one. What does that feel like? And the one that stuck with me was a yellow rose with red edges, red tips on the petals. And I saw the stem getting bigger, like maturing, getting stronger. And I was pretty much zoomed in, and I could see that the stem was wizened, like like maybe there were cracks that had healed or scratches, or anyway, there had been some damage, and that the thorns were pretty good size, like, do not mess with me. And then the image kind of zoomed out, and I could see that this sturdy, wizened stem was growing out of a much bigger branch that had been cut off at some point. But I was growing out of that big branch. And then just looking at it, and a little bud came out of the stem, and it was a red rose. And that was about the time you asked us to ask a question. And so I asked, show me where I will see my next inspiration. And it was very clear my next inspiration is going to be the kids that I work with.
Touching. Wow. That's beautiful.
Thanks.
Thanks so much for sharing. Yeah, such a visual journey, I'm sure seeing and going on there is very creative, and then a very clear answer. So that's a really beautiful demonstration of, how this can work, what that can look like.
So thanks for the meditation.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Always nice to see you. Cool. We'll finish up with the shares then, and I just wanted to create a couple minutes in case anyone had a specific question on this class or this topic. You can raise your hand if there's any last dying questions before we wrap up. Yeah, May. Here, I'll ask you to unmute.
Okay, yeah,
there you
now
go.
I'm unmuted. You mentioned spaciousness, and I've heard other meditation teachers mention expansiveness and spaciousness, and I'm not sure what that means.
So spaciousness is the experience of experiencing a division between the energy that's you and the energy that's other stuff. So some meditation teachers are talking about spaciousness between you and thought, where you're not so fully engaged in your thought that you're being the thinker. You're not so fully engaged in your feelings, you're being the feeler, but there's room for you to just be. And that's an experience that isn't really, talked about a whole lot, or that we're used to purposely going for. We're so busy, being busy and having all this stuff around us. So spaciousness, it's kind of like between you and different energies. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking not crowded by feelings or thoughts.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good question. Yeah. Moon, did you have a question?
I do. At the end of meditation, and I've done quite a few with David Gandelman and Energy Matters in general, there's this sort of evaporation or explosion at the end. And I'm just curious what the real intentionality of that is. Like, are we just getting out of that moment, or like, but what if I want to bring some of that knowledge with me? Can you help me navigate that just a little bit?
Yeah, there's a long answer and a short answer. And the short answer is it's just to help you be done with what you're looking at and to move on in the world. It's kind of like if you've ever watched a TV show or watched an argument, or like been stuck in traffic where everyone's mad, and then you go to do your next thing and you kind of have some of that energy following you and you're still engaged in it, or you were like thinking about something really intensely, and then you go to have a conversation with your friend and you realize you're 2 minutes into the conversation, you've just been thinking about that thing, not actually listening. So the explosion or the disposal of the energy that you're looking at is really just so that you don't have to carry that around with you, because sometimes it'll even just attract other people. Like if you're looking for your answer and other people bump into that, they might think, oh, maybe you, Moon, maybe you have my answer. Maybe I should, do this or that, because of that, what you're looking at. So that's really the only reason. If you wanted to contemplate it more, kind of have that energy still around so you could play with it more, you could try that too. Yeah. Yeah. good question as well. It's fun stuff. Whoops. All right. My laptop just tried to take me somewhere else. Any other questions? Anything else before we wrap up? Thanks so much for being here, everyone. Oh, yeah, M. Can't find the raise hand button, but can you unmute? That'll suffice.
Hi. So I was trying to do the meditation as much as possible, but anytime I try to do energy work, my shoulder gets like this extreme pain. And it's literally like anytime I've tried to meditate for the last 6 months, I don't know if I've heard it has to do with inner child work. I don't know if anybody else has experienced like bodily pain whenever they've tried to meditate or do any type of energy work.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's a certain type of meditation that I would do that every time I would do it, I would get all sorts of aches and pains and sensations, and it was almost like energy that was distracting me from getting to go further in and meditate and look at it and kind of clear up what was creating that pain. If it's stuck in your shoulder, it might be a certain level of responsibility or even a past level of conflict, trauma that there's a level of responsibility for that's kind of hanging over you and keeping you from getting to go further within. Or something else. Yeah, but that's usually what's happening if there's a like severe sensation that suddenly comes up when you're meditating. It's some energy that's coming to the surface. It's very like psychodynamic, it's like it could be an emotional thing, a mental thing, a spiritual thing. And we want to kind of just make space for it, to question it, to see it, almost as if you could see yourself in a room alone with that shoulder pain and say, hey, what are you doing? And kind of let it talk to you. Maybe it becomes an animation of a character, or maybe you look at that shoulder pain in the rows instead, and it's still going to show you the energy that's between you and doing the meditation you intended to do, or seeing what you intended to see. You can make some space to converse with that, because once you've listened to it, heard its message, that's when a sensation goes away, because a sensation, a feeling, it's communication from the body. And so you can communicate to it spiritually through imagery, and you can see what that message is, what that lesson is, just by sitting with it longer and longer. And eventually it's going to start to fade, and then you can go and meditate, and then maybe it comes back a little bit and you say hello to it again. That's okay too. You just don't let it win. You don't get frustrated by it. Keep saying hello to it. And if you've done that several times and you still need a hand, you can come get a reading in our student reading clinics. Have someone look at it for you too.
I love that. Thank you so, so much. And sorry to go over time, but
No,
I really appreciate that answer. It made a lot of sense.
yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. It comes up a lot. Someone else in the chat saying they had a similar experience with their right foot. Yes, can totally happen. So, all right. Well, thanks everyone so much for being here. Again, I put some of those notes in the chat so you can copy them if you want to. Otherwise, thanks for being here. Have a great night.